That's 8 wins, road wins in a row for the Golden State Warriors. I got Jannelle Moore with me of the Mercury News, of Andscape. We also got intern Carl in the house. He's going to jump in later in the show with a new segment called Carl's Minute, where he's going to give him the floor for a minute or two. We're going to discuss whatever is on his mind. But for now, 8 road wins in a row for the Golden State Warriors. They're 3-0 on this road trip. They had 11 road wins total last year. We're going to break down what I thought was an impressive win over the Toronto Raptors, and I saw some great adjustments in this game. Steve Kerr can do that. Let's break it all down next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. It's where all our live shows are available exclusively. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. You can follow Jannelle Moore. She writes for Andscape. She writes for the Mercury News, covering the Golden State Warriors, sometimes the Carolina Panthers. Whatever she writes about, it's quality content. Follow her on Twitter at Jannelle12. That's Jannelle with 2 N's and 2 L's. Again, at Jannelle12. It's great to see you, Jannelle. How are you doing? And your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors overcoming the obstacle that is traveling to Toronto. I thought Rick Barry on yesterday's show, I thought nailed it in terms of this being a little overblown. I mean, look, in the grand scheme of things, they're in a chartered flight on a chartered plane. They could sleep on that plane if they want to, and they showed that it's really not that big of a deal with an impressive victory over the Raptors tonight. Final score was 120-105. Jannelle, how are you, and your immediate reaction to the game?
Well, I'm fine. And my immediate thought about this game is that they had to dig down deep. I mean, of course, it's the second game of a back-to-back. And plus, they didn't get into Toronto until about 7 o'clock this morning because their plane had issues.
Right.
For them to pull out a win, that speaks to their mindset and their mettle.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's break it down a little more. I mean, the first half was, they started off slow. There's been very few times, at least in my memory, where I can recall Steve Kerr being that angry. Did you see that, Jannelle? Like, they called the timeout. I think they were down 14-7 at that point. There were some defensive lapses. Have you ever seen Kerr? We've seen the clips of him like literally breaking clipboards, but he was livid. Your reaction to that, if you saw it?
Good for him.
What did you notice what specifically he was upset about? Was it just a lack of effort? Was it, did you notice anything?
A lack of focus, not a lack of effort per se, but a lack of focus. He knew where things was going. He knew where the trajectory of the moment, and he rightfully called a timeout and got in their ass. Great, bravo.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the Warriors have won 8 road games in a row. This was a very important road trip. There's now 23 games left in the season. We're going to touch on the standings in just a moment. And look, Henry Tadimi in the chat, if I pronounce the name correctly. Hey, look, you're right. These road wins are not against the toughest opponents. These teams are shorthanded, but so are the Warriors. And look, you can make excuses, but even with these teams being shorthanded, a win is a win. It is not easy to go into someone else's building and pull off these victories. Jannelle, given that the most of the opponents in this trip so far have been missing players because of injuries, do you think that takes anything away from the luster, from the importance of being 3-0 in this trip so far?
No, because you play who's in front of you, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And attrition affects everybody in the NBA. And these wins are much needed.
Yeah.
They're in a
Yes,
situation where every win matters and every win counts.
absolutely.
The style points are irrelevant here. Style is irrelevant. Degree of difficulty. Who cares? Win what you can, and steal the wins you're not expected to.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I'm totally with you. I don't think it bears any relevance at all. I'm looking at this stat sheet right now, and I'm based off what I saw today. I'm seeing Moses Moody. First of all, he led the team in minutes. That is encouraging by itself. He's come a long way. We all, in the news a couple months ago, everyone was focused on Jonathan Kuminga being upset with the way he was used. The news got out that it wasn't that news got out. He literally publicly told reporters that he wasn't happy with his minutes, but lost in that moment was Moses Moody, almost simultaneously also expressing, his unhappiness with the way he's being used. And in my humble opinion, that it was very valid. I mean, these are two young players with a ton of talent, and they were just rotting away on this bench. They're still getting DNPs. And to see Moses Moody, now I know he's getting his minutes because Wiggins is out indefinitely, but 31 minutes, 34 seconds, 7 of 13 from the field tonight. He was 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. Finished the game with a team-leading net rating. The second game in a row he's done that. His impact is huge. It's much harder to capture in terms of measurables, in terms of data, an impact a player has defensively on the court, but you're seeing it with Moody, whether it was his defense on Jalen Brunson last night. Tonight, he was all over the floor with another magnificent defensive performance. That 7'1" wingspan is showing out there. I love it. 17 points for him. Again, led the team in net rating with a plus 17, had 2 steals, had 2 blocks. Jannelle, what are your thoughts on this kid, Moses Moody? I love him. To me, the future is just getting brighter and brighter for the Warriors by the day, but the present is also bright. What are your thoughts on this kid, Moses Moody, who I love?
Well, Moses is a quintessential professional, and he has the potential. He has the goods to really be a key member, a productive member of this team. And
Sorry.
you mentioned how Kuminga was unhappy with his minutes, and also Moses was. Um, Kuminga went about it the way he did, and Moses was kind of silent. But at the end of the day, if you're a younger player, sometimes you have to speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself, and may ruffle some feathers, but as long as you have a valid case and you are putting the work in and knowing you're putting the work in, sometimes you have to speak up.
Yep.
And
You're absolutely right.
that was good on Kuminga. And Moses, I mean, it's not a right way or wrong way to do it, but you have to advocate for yourself at some point.
No, absolutely, and especially in their case. I mean, it was people, the everydayers of this program heard me sound like a broken record, just advocating for these two kids, and you're seeing the results with them playing now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jonathan Kuminga. Stephen Curry had another vintage Stephen Curry night, shot nearly 50% from beyond the arc. This game early on looked like it was slipping away from the Warriors. They were struggling in that opening quarter. But Stephen Curry kept him in with just 3 after 3 and just, being the incredible individual that he is. But look, congrats to Stephen Curry on the news, not basketball related, but let's quickly touch on it real fast before we give some love to our sponsors. Jannelle, Steph's going to be a dad for the 4th time. What was your reaction to that, if any?
No reaction. I mean, I'm not surprised.
He's just, I don't know if you're a Warriors fan or how big of a fan you are, but in terms of an ambassador, in terms of a representative for this organization, for the region, I don't know if you can get better. I mean,
You can't get better.
Yeah. I mean, just family man, just, it's just marvelous. I think if you're a Warriors fan, if you're a Bay Area, resident, or just anyone who has some sort of personal affiliation with the team, we're all lucky. We're all lucky at this stage in time that Stephen Curry is the man for the Golden State Warriors, and kudos to him and his family for for having a fourth kid coming soon, to join their already incredibly beautiful family. We're going to talk about Stephen Curry's on-court accomplishments when we come back. We're also going to talk about Jonathan Kuminga, who had a monster game, and I want to give some love to Steve Kerr because I saw some things in tonight's game that surprised me. He surprised me a lot this year. I cannot be happy enough with the adjustments that he's making that I did not think he had it in him to do anymore. But he's making the changes that are needed, and I want to give him his due. So we'll do all that and so much more when we come back with Jannelle Moore of Andscape and the Mercury News. Intern Carl Bernal is also going to join us later in the show with his on-camera debut, where he's going to share his whatever topic is on his mind, Warriors related. So that's what's coming up on the show. First up, though, we're going to talk about the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that is FanDuel. Jannelle, I haven't had you on since the Super Bowl. That was a heartbreaker. I bring up the Super Bowl because football gambling is as big as it's ever been in the sports world. It was a heartbreaker for me. If you bet on the game, I hope you at least won money. What was your reaction to the Super Bowl? Was it vintage Mahomes? Anything stick out to you?
It was vintage Mahomes at the end, but what stuck out to me is that Steve Wilkes and the Niners defense held him to 19 points in regulation. That's what stuck out to me. And another thing that stuck out to me was that the Niners went away from what worked for them, the run game, and they underutilized the Ayuk and Debo.
Do you like? I mean,
old.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Steve Wilkes thing, I know he was formerly with the Panthers, so you covered him a little bit. Did you bring that up because you feel like the Niners made a mistake letting him go?
Well, I'm kind of torn on that because there are a couple of friends of mine online that are Niners fans, and they said that it wasn't a good fit from the beginning, and the defense struggled about all season.
Yeah,
but I just wonder, had they won the Super Bowl, would have fired him? Probably so.
Because you think they still would have, even if they won?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a bolt. Yeah, that's great. That's interesting. Well, regardless, football.
If they, I mean, think about it. I would compare that situation to what happened in Detroit not too long ago, about a few years back. I think it was Casey or somebody that won the Coach of the Year in Detroit, and they got fired.
Right. Well,
I mean, crazy stuff happens
all the time. You're absolutely right. And look, even though the football season is over, that Super Bowl still depresses me to no end. But with FanDuel, you can bet on basketball. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Any winning $5 bet. That means you could bet on a heavy favorite. You can bet on whatever you want. And all you got to do is win that $5 bet, and you get $150 slipped right into your account. It's that easy. $150 if your bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Given the football season is over, we're all about March Madness around the corner. The NBA playoffs are a little over a month away. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Locked On Podcast Network has their own 24/7 sports channel on YouTube, and it's now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Jannelle Moore is free and available on Twitter for content, obviously. You can follow her there at Jannelle12. Jonathan Kuminga, my lord, I love this kid. The only thing I feel like has not gotten to the point where we can boast about it and feel good about it is that three-point shot. It's going to get there, I think. I'm not overly worried about it, but all in all, 24 points on the night, 6 rebounds on the night, was 9 of 19 from the field, and he was a force. Him and RJ Barrett were going at it a little bit. They both got teed up at one point because they were fighting over positioning. The Raptors had a big lineup out there with Kelly Olynyk. Sometimes we saw a twin tower lineup with Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl. But Kuminga held his own, and he had a couple of just insane rim rattling dunks that reminded everyone momentum is a real thing in sports. What I mean by that is, like, the second dunk to me was, I mean, you saw the Warriors bench. They were just speechless. They didn't know how to react to that. But those kinds of plays are demoralizing for the opposition, and they give you momentum as a team. Your thoughts, Jannelle, on Jonathan Kuminga so far leading up to this point of the season? What an incredible year for this kid. Your thoughts?
Well, he's taking a leap that everybody was expecting him to take. And, he advocated for himself. It paid off. He bet on himself. It paid off. So it's good to see what else he could do to grow.
Yeah.
Sure, he could get to the rim. Well, sure, he could go downhill, but I'd like to see some reliable 7 to 8 feet shots. Start with that before going to the 3-point line.
Absolutely.
And it gives them vertical space. And you mentioned something about demoralizing, with his dunks. And I'm aging myself here, but whatever.
It's okay.
Dominique Wilkins was big on that. His dunks were intimidating. His dunks were violent. And that's what those rim rattling dunks remind me of. They're Kuminga using them as a tool of intimidation, like Wilkins did.
That's a great call, because Dominique, that's a great call. I started to be redundant there, but you're right. For us old folks, and I'm not saying you are. I don't think anyone could be that old to remember Dominique, but his dunks were like that, where you just were just in awe. They were violent. I agree with that. Great descriptive word there. What about Kuminga's game? Do you? I mean, obviously the 3-point shooting needs to improve. Last year he was shooting nearly 38%. That number has dropped considerably this year. I think part of it is just the fact that he's not really getting into a rhythm because the team wants him to focus so much on attacking the rim. He doesn't really need to shoot to begin with, but he's also not doing it enough, I think, to really improve. So yeah, that's a part of his game that still needs work. But is there anything else? I hear some people criticize his ball handling. Yeah.
Should start off with, like I said, a reliable 8-foot, 7-foot before going out to the 3. Because sooner or later,
you don't think he's good there yet?
No, I don't. Sooner or later, opposing teams would have him high up on the scouting report and will pack the paint and make it difficult for him to go downhill. So he needs some counters for that.
Are you noticing this too? Like, I'm seeing it already. The last game was the first time it really stuck out to me against the Knicks, and we saw it again tonight against the Raptors. It's crazy. That's how much he's impacting the game. You're starting to see double teams. And this is where his passing skills are really shining. He's a terrific passer, in my opinion. Yeah. So you think he's still needs some work on his mid-range and also on adjusting to other teams focusing more on him?
I do. All right. Adjusting to that.
All right.
Because he's going up their scouting reports. So that he need to find some counters. some more counters and some more counters if if he is who he's expected to be.
Have you thought of a comp yet for him? Do you think he's just a unique player in and of himself? Like, Mark Jones was on this program a couple weeks ago, and he said the closest thing he could think of was Paul George. I see some Jason Tatum there. Where what are your thoughts? Is there anyone that he compares to? Dominique, I know you mentioned, but at least that was with the dunks. But for the overall body, is there anyone that he compares to in your opinion?
Nope.
Yeah, he's unique. He's a unique kid. God, I just love the fact.
I'm just, I would like, for me, it's going to take a little more from him to really, for me, to see who is his comp. Not everything is comp, but if we are to compare him, I need to see a little more.
Yeah. And Nigel Spar brings up the fact that he will get to Kobe. He might. That's a player he looks up to. It's an awesome player to strive for in terms of a comp, but we'll see. That's Kobe is right near the top. But anyway, so and Cool Breeze mentions Clyde Drexler, which that's an interesting one. I never really thought of that one before. And yes, Nick Fensky, I'm totally with you. He is Jonathan and he is him. Stephen Curry, real fast. I just want to mention his stats for the evening. 9 of 22 from the field. He was 7 of 15 from beyond the arc. Folks, that's damn near 50%. For shooting from beyond the arc, that is impressive. There's no way to spin that. Curry's also been a savage beast on the rebounding side. I think he had 11 last game. He had 6 tonight, added 6 assists, finished the game with 25 points. Any thoughts on Stephen Curry following his performance tonight? Anything you want to add about Steph on the year so far that you've seen?
I think he has been amazing, coming off of a back-to-back like that, and the rebounding efforts. I mean, that's not surprising because he has been underrated as a rebounder. Whenever he has that drive and that want to rebound, he will get them. He would get them. Most of them are long rebounds, but it all adds up.
It
And
does.
he's just incredible.
100% agree with you. He is incredible. We are lucky. Anyone who calls themselves a member of Dub Nation, we are lucky. That Steph is part of this thing.
And to the point, I was really impressed with those rebounds against the Knicks last night.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them were in the first half, and I think whenever he makes it that effort to rebound, he's coming out for a purpose. He is aggressive. And what surprised me today was you would think that he wouldn't have any legs and he would be spent, but he scored 9 points in the first quarter. And, just the whole team effort to come out how they did with not only a back-to-back, but the circumstances before the game. It was just amazing.
Absolutely.
And you would think Steph, he'll be 36 in about 2 weeks, will be affected by it the most, but he came out there and he left it all he had on the court, and so did everybody else. Just amazing all the way around.
Absolutely agree. When we come back, I'm going to give Steve Kerr his due because I saw something in tonight's game that really, really made me happy. And I think it played a huge part in the Warriors winning this game comfortably. 120-105 was the final score. That and a lot more with Jannelle Moore. And plus, no pun intended. Is that a pun or is that just a redundancy? Anyways, and plus intern Carl is going to join the program. He's got a great topic he's going to bring up, which I absolutely love. So we got a lot more to come. First, though, is our second sponsor of the evening, and that is Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks is also legal in California. You could play it guilt-free. You could play it without any worries about legal ramifications. It's super fun. They've got a promo right now. It's called Demon Time on Prize Picks, where you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, where you can turn $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins are the newest, the most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And again, folks, it's super fun. If you ever want my pointers, DM me on Instagram. Same handle as Threads, @DogWild. I've been fortunate to have never had to put money into my account because every host that Locked On was started with, I think, 50 or $100 in there just so we can play it and endorse it properly, right, with experience. And I've never had to add money since. If you're a hoops junkie like me, you can win money from Prize Picks. And it's also got a safe withdrawal system. There's nothing sketchy about it. You can get your money back instantaneously. Go have some fun. It is fun. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA is the website. And if you use the code LockedOnNBA, you can get a first deposit match up to $100. That means you can start with double what you put in. Again, go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, one final segment of Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, we're going to be back at this on Sunday. Warriors Celtics. That is a huge matchup. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Right now, I'm joined by Andscape and the Mercury News' Jannelle Moore. You can follow her on Twitter at Jannelle12. Intern Carl is going to join us in just a moment as well for an interesting topic he's going to bring up. Jannelle, I saw something interesting tonight. I take notes watching every one of these games. And in my notes, I was complaining about the fact that for some reason in the last 3, 4, maybe 5 games, we've seen Steve Kerr go to this front court where he's insisting on playing Dario Saric and Trayce Jackson-Davis together. I was also and to me that makes no sense. I don't think it works. Maybe he's just experimenting. But I also saw in this game Jakob Poeltl and I'm brain farting on the other guy's name, Kelly Olynyk, eating the Warriors up inside. And all I kept thinking to myself was, if Trayce Jackson-Davis matched Poeltl's minutes, and I have it right on my notes, this game would have been a breeze if Trayce Jackson-Davis matches Jakob Poeltl's minutes. What does Steve Kerr do second half? He matches Poeltl's minutes and sometimes Kelly Olynyk with Trayce Jackson-Davis. He was actually playing one of the Warriors' few really efficient and borderline dominant bigs. Trayce Jackson-Davis played 16 minutes in this game, finished the game with 9 points. He doesn't put up big rebounding numbers yet, but it doesn't matter. They won. He was effective. He was a +8 in that rating. Finished the game with 9 points, 4 rebounds, was 3 of 4 from the field. Also had 2 trips to the free throw line. Again, 16 minutes. That's the kind of minutes I want to see from Trayce Jackson-Davis. Kudos to Steve Kerr for making that halftime adjustment. Been a while since I've seen something like that. Your thoughts on what I just said, Jannelle?
Well, I think Kerr is coming to the realization that Dario his effectiveness is waning on both sides of the ball. He struggles offensively, especially without CP3, but he really is a liability on the defensive end. So
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So I think he's coming to the realization that Dario should be used in spurts.
Yeah, Dario is definitely struggling because you're right. His value, and certainly what I think Steve Kerr sees in him, is the fact that because he can make the threes, he spaces the floor and open things up. But the three has not been falling lately. On the year, his 3-point shooting is at 38%. Over the last 10 games, though, this is a stark statistic. Over the last 10 games, he's only shooting 18%, 18.2% more specifically from beyond the arc. So that the dude is struggling. But again, to me, the spacing thing, if you're playing this level of defense, the spacing thing doesn't matter that much. I mean, you're holding teams to under 100 points. They've done that 2 of the last 5 games, including the Knicks game last night. Tonight, they hold the Raptors to just 105. And a lot of that is these young players and giving guys like Trace Jackson Davis extended minutes. So I'm stoked on that. Let's bring our intern Carl into the program. Let me set this up here real fast with the background. Carl, whoa, hold on a second here. Sorry, this is live programming and sometimes it's slow. There we go. Carl, how are you doing? You're doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You're doing tremendous work. Once a week, we're going to do a segment called Carl's Minute. Carl Bernal, sorry, the floor is yours. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Cy, thanks for having me. I just want to talk about my favorite night in Golden State Warriors history. Now, some people might think maybe it's the first Curry title. Maybe it's one of the Durant years. Maybe it's the 22 title. Nope, not me. My favorite night in Warriors history, and this is since you had Rick Barry on the program last night. It just made me think of this. My favorite night in Warriors history is March 19th, 2012. It was Chris Mullin's jersey retirement ceremony night. It was 6 days after they traded Monte Ellis to the Bucks for Andrew Bogut. And the fans were not happy. They'd handed the keys to the team to Steph, whose ankles were still made of glass and held together with duct tape at this point. And yeah, the fans were not feeling it. And Joe Lacob comes on, the new owner, Joe Lacob, at this point, comes on the floor to give a speech. And he's thinking it's just going to be a few nice words about Chris Mullin, and he's going to hand him something, and then it's going to be all good. But then you can't even get 2 sentences out, and the boos just start raining down on him like I've never heard before in Oracle Arena. He can't even get 2 words out. Joe Lacob is not a public speaker, so he starts melting down. He starts stammering. It's really just a sad sight to see. And then so who comes to the rescue but Rick Barry? He storms onto the court, grabs the mic, and he says, "Hey, you fans, you respect this man. He's trying to spend money to make this team better, and he's going to turn it around." And at the time, I was thinking to myself, what does this old blowhard know about being a fan of a moribund, terrible franchise? Like, we're headed to 8 more years of 35 win seasons and number 10 draft picks. What is Rick Barry even talking about? How can he say this? That being said, sitting here 12 years later, I just wanted to say, Rick Barry, you were right. We were wrong. I am sorry, and I will forever listen to anything you ever have to say ever again.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment in Warriors history, and you can make the argument right after that is when the dynasty officially started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a great moment to bring up, Carl. Thank you. Yeah, there you go, folks. Intern Carl with his moment, and you're going to do this every week. Bruce Morrow wants to know if you were in high school when that happened. Is that correct?
No. I was a little after high school at that point, but yeah, much younger, obviously.
And some people there, Jay Boogie Guinea's digging. This was more like Carl's minutes than minute. But Carl, thank you so much, bro. That was phenomenal. And so far, so damn good with your contributions to the show. He's doing a lot behind the scenes, folks, in terms of helping me out. Jannelle, any last thoughts? Thank you so much for coming on the program. Last words.
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And we'll see what's up on Sunday when they play the Celtics.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking that they have a great chance as any to go in Boston and get upset. We're great on the road, and it seems like the Warriors have the Celtics number.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting a good game. I'm expecting a closely contested game. And what the Warriors have to do is just keep locking in on defense. I mean, I know I too sound like a broken record when it comes to defense, but
it's vitally important.
Their defense and how they've been disjointed for most of the year is one of the reasons why they're still in 10th place and trying to
ninth now. But yeah.
Well,
I hear what you're saying.
fluctuating between 9th and 10th place, and is the culprit of so many leads blown. So lock in on defense. Continue to lock in on defense.
Jannelle, thank you so much for coming on. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Great win tonight. That's going to be a huge one on Sunday. Carl, thank you. Bye-bye.